Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another value-packed TenantCloud podcast. If you want to be more informed, better educated, and a successful landlord, then stay tuned. With over a decade of property management experience, we bring you short and sweet, bite-sized pieces of incredibly valuable property management tidbits in 10 minutes or less. Believe it or not, the fall season officially starts in just a few weeks on September 23rd. And that means that there is a lot of work that is coming up that you should be preparing and planning for right now for your rental properties. You won't want to miss out on these incredibly helpful things that highly successful landlords make sure they do every year. So let's get started. Jumping right in, as we said, fall is coming up on September 23rd. And since fall is just around the corner, now is a great time to start preparing your rentals for this season. It is a beautiful season, by the way. Pumpkin spice and everything nice. All kinds of cool stuff goes on in the fall. Not to mention it's not scalding hot outside, so you can go outside and enjoy nature and the changing of the leaves and all that type of thing. Unless you live in deep south where we don't really have many changes to the colors of leaves, but nonetheless, it is a beautiful time of year. It is a lot cooler, and there are a few things though that you need to make sure that you're doing in this season for your rental properties. So it's not all fun and games during the fall, but getting started, the number one thing that you want to make sure you're checking is check your heating system. Now, if you're in the deep south, your tenants might not be turning on their heating systems until a little bit later in the year, but for many people up north, people are already starting to use their heaters. I know there's been a few cold fronts that have come through where my parents live up in Michigan in the UP, up not far from Canada, and so they're already using their heaters. They're already burning wood in the fireplace and so on and so forth. So you're going to want to make sure that you check your heating system, because one of the highest volume of calls that we would get during the late fall, early winter seasons was people would report burning smells and weird smells because they hadn't turned on their heater for 6, 8, 10 months, and so there was this dust buildup. And while a lot of times that may not be a hazard, it's best not to try to tempt fate and just do some quick service, standard preventative services on your heater systems. Make sure that your heating coils and stuff are all cleaned off and ready to go. And that will eliminate a lot of calls that you'll get from tenants who are freaking out because they think that the property is about to burn down because it just burned off a little bit of dust or it's just cranking up for the first time in 8 or 10 months or whatever. So you do want to make sure that you are checking it and make sure that you are servicing it, just a routine maintenance, a routine cleanup, and stuff like that. Also, the other thing you want to check along those same lines with your heating system is also check your water heater and just make sure that it's working, it's up to speed, and it's been serviced. Because again, during the colder months, it will have to work a little bit harder to keep the water hotter, depending on the type of system that you have, where it's located at, where the pipes are, and so on and so forth. Moving on, number 2, you want to make sure that you're cleaning the gutters on a regular basis. This is the time of year where the gutters are starting to get full of debris and twigs and leaves that are falling off the trees and seeds from the trees and all kinds of stuff. And it can cause some pretty significant damage to your roof if you do not take care of your gutters. It can cause backups with the water. It can cause corrosion along the roof line and all kinds of things. And it can also cause your gutters to simply just fall off or break off because it's just got too much stuff and it's become weighted down. It can cause all kinds of problems. So you definitely don't want to play any games with that. Make sure that your gutters are cleaned off. Make sure that they're draining properly and stuff like that. Also, along those same lines is make sure that you are, especially if you're in a multi-family rental property, during the fall, a lot of leaves will fall on the steps. And a lot of people don't realize how slippery leaves that have fallen off of trees can get, especially every morning with the dew on the ground and just that light moisture on a layer of leaves sitting on some steps can be very dangerous. And so you just want to it's almost like ice, to be honest. I've stepped on them a couple times myself, and it's really not cool. So you want to make sure that you're having your landscaping company, if you have a regular landscaping service, come through and blow off the steps and stuff, and maybe even send out a notice to tenants to say, hey, it's this time of year, there's leaves falling, please be aware of your walking. In the morning they can become slippery, and so on and so forth. But just something to keep in mind for your rental property. Number 3, along those same lines, is just make sure that the lawn will look beautiful in the spring. And so this involves taking care of your lawn, and depending on the market that you're in, this might be things like fertilizing the lawn or other type of lawn feed, as well as whether or not you should mulch the leaves back into the ground or let them sit on top of the ground, because there can be benefits depending on what type of leaves they are, how heavy they are, and where in the country you are. So if you're unsure, check with your local landscaper, or if you have a landscaper that already provides service to your property. It can help save you a lot of money in the spring and summer of next year if you take care of your lawn the way it should be taken care of in the fall, and that'll help you with future costs. Number 4 is repair your sidewalks and driveways. Before the rainy season really starts and you start getting ice and things like that, you want to make sure that, to avoid future damage or more damage, that you repair your sidewalks and driveways now, and that will help prevent moisture from getting in between cracks, and then the ice forming and swelling and causing more issues, and maybe even water getting into certain areas of your property that you don't want it to go. And so making sure that you're sealing off all the cracks and repairing everything it can be a pretty big deal depending on what part of the country you're in. Not to mention, you just don't want cracks and things like that, because you don't want people tripping or anything like that. And number 5, we'll wrap this up here real quick, is make sure that you're taking care of your garden. This kind of goes along the lines with your lawn. You want to make sure that for curb appeal, especially if you're trying to rent out your property, that your garden looks good. Again, you can have a lot of leaves and things falling off of the trees and seeds and so on and so forth, and it can really make the garden look a little messy. But not just that, also make sure that you put out fresh decorative items like garden decorations and things like that. Maybe pumpkins for the Halloween season, maybe a nice little garden flag and things like that, just to show that you care about your property, you're taking care of your property, that everything's up to date, you're refreshing it. Maybe even put in some fall flowers for your area and things of that nature. It really helps to spruce the property up. And not just that, even if you're not just trying to lease out your rental property, maybe you already have a tenant there that's been there for a while, but just taking care of the property in general, getting those good reviews when that tenant moves out, and other people that they might refer to your property, they can go to those people with confidence and say, yeah, the landlord really cares about the property, they really take care of it, they would always refresh the garden, they take care of the lawn, or so on and so forth. And if you're not doing that and your tenant is responsible for those types of things, then it might be helpful to send out something to your tenants to let them know about these items. If they're responsible for all this stuff, then don't leave it up to the tenant to remember to do these things. That's not usually what is the first and foremost thing on their mind this time of year. Usually it's going to Starbucks or somewhere else and getting a nice pumpkin spice drink or something like that, and not really doing yard work at a property that they don't own. But if it is outlined in the lease contract that they're responsible for these things, you will want to make sure that you send out a reminder to them just to say, hey, it's this time of year. You can even send them our blog that this podcast is based off of, and you can find that at TenantCloud.com/blog. And the title is Fall is Coming, 5 Ultimate Home Maintenance Tips. So you can actually send that blog link to your tenants if you want, just so that they can have something to reference later on. And that way your property is taken care of for the fall period. So it's a beautiful time of year. We hope you're looking forward to it. We hope that this fall is an incredible time for you and your family and your rental properties. And other than that, we look forward to talking with you next time on our podcast, and we'll talk to you later.